Mentorship was obviously a big part of to help set goals, check in on the goals, get a push. Like, that goal's too easy. Don't, no, Zach, you've been there. Don't do that. Oh, what's my 300 members? That's way too many. I don't know about that. Well, why not? So start to really change your mindset and your identity about who you want to become and where you can go with things. We're at that ceiling, if you will, that a lot of micro gyms hit, the 150 to 170, under 200 people for some time. I was like fine with it. But that quickly, you got to make more if you want to make it great. And I wanted to make it great. Even if somebody is going to try and catch, I'm confident we're going to be better because that's what we do. But we're also going to be that much further ahead because I'm not stopping. We actually just crested 400. I got my 420th review yesterday. So yeah, we're knocking on up there.
Welcome to the Barbell Business Podcast by Big Little Gyms. This is the show where we deconstruct the tactics, strategies, and mindsets of successful gym owners and fitness entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale your business to the next level, this is your go-to resource for actionable insights and inspiration. In each episode, we'll uncover what it takes to build a thriving fitness business while creating impact and community. Today, I'm excited to welcome a guest who's not only endured the challenges of the fitness industry, but has thrived against the odds. Zach Thew is the owner of Kakon CrossFit in Purcellville, Virginia. He's been leading it since 2013. Zach has successfully navigated the shutdowns, retaining his business despite a 35% loss in membership. But his story doesn't stop there. Over the last 2 years, he's grown Kakon CrossFit from 170 members to an impressive 350 members, all while keeping churn at an enviable 5% or lower. Even more impressive is Zach has built a team of 5 full-time staff, creating not just a thriving gym and community, but a sustainable career path for his team. We're here to unpack Zach's strategies and the mindset that helps Zach rebuild and grow his gym, retain his members, and foster a team-driven business. Let's give a warm welcome to Zach Thew. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Will. Great introduction, man. I'm excited to be here and hopefully provide some value for you guys.
That's the goal, right, man?
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with your story, man. What inspired you to open CrossFit Kakon back in 2013, and what were you doing before you opened your gym?
Man, prior to the gym, I've lived a couple lives prior to the gym. To sum it up, the previous profession I was doing, I was a structural steel draftsman. So I had a big boy job, engineering company. I was drawing buildings and doing the cubicle thing, 9 to 5. Hated life, sitting behind 44 inches of monitor all day. And I think a lot of that too, I went down that path as my father did. He was an engineer and that's what I thought I needed to do. But I always was moonlighting in a gym and personal training, and I'd been working out all my life, got into that as a teenager, and had that moment where I'm like, I don't want to do this forever, and saw some career opportunity in a gym, started working out, managed a gym, took over a Globo gym, did that for a few years, and like every other CrossFit person out there, right, that found it many, many years ago like myself, you fall in love with it, it becomes identity, and you're like, this is it. I have to spread this and give this to the world and help people with movement. So took the plunge as a 26-year-old young man, quit my full-time job, and opened up the gym.
In those early years, it's always like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, right? It's like, it's all gravy, it's all looking good. But for a lot of gym owners in those early years, especially coming from like those OG days, there was a time when it was a little bit easier because the market was just booming and kind of providing for us. Things are a whole lot different now, but I want to go back to that time and kind of maybe the time in between where some of the challenges you faced in those early years of running your gym. What were some of those things that that kind of hit you in the face that you realized oh, this is the real deal?
Yeah, no, you're right too. Back when we opened up this affiliate in 2013 and I got into CrossFit close for 2010. Thought I was already doing it too. I'm like, I don't really need that CrossFit stuff. Me and my buddy were training together. He has a gym now too out in Hagerstown, adjacent city to me. But it was a whole different world back then with this functional fitness coach-led class experience. It was new to the market, right? Did away with the key tag scan barcode approach to gym memberships. And it was also, I think a lot of other early affiliates will resonate with this. It was cool to be like, the dirtier and darker your gym was, the better it was, right? So we kept rusty chains in the corner, and we did that stuff, not intentionally, but it's the environment we wanted to foster. It's very clubhouse mentality too, where, I was a young fire breathing chest pumping, gym rat turned CrossFitter. And I wanted people to just work hard, sweat, endure, and build some camaraderie in there. I didn't really care about getting paid. It was like I wanted to deliver the best experience, the hardest experience I could, and like, oh yeah, I leave a check in the box. Like, that was a lot of the mentality. Now I say this, I also came into my space with some gym management experience. So I had formal agreements out of the gate. Like I understood the commitment and the different options with enrollment costs and membership options, right? And documenting things and doing reoccurring memberships. Like I had some systems like that already in tools, but it also was not a huge deal to somebody that didn't want to be here anymore. You're like, fine, you can get out of your agreement, no problem, whatever, you don't want to be here. Struggles is one thing you asked. Like, what struggles did you quickly realize? Because you get into this as a hobbyist, and you couldn't ask me back then, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I wouldn't have had the best answer for it. I didn't have a good map, right, or vision for it. Quickly realized, I say quickly, it was a couple years, but it becomes exhausting. It demands a lot of physical and mental energy to teach, train, motivate other human beings, right? So that starts to take a toll on you now as a 26, 27-year-old single guy, no kids, little responsibility. That was fine. I'd get up early in the morning, coach all day, and then you could even have some fun in the evening still, get by on a few hours of sleep, and it was no problem. That all quickly shifted to I started a family and had my first son in 2015. So that was a bit of a reality check, and I think in a very positive way. Best thing I've ever done with my life. But that was a pivotal point too, where it's like, okay, I need to do this. Is gonna work. This is going to work. The boats are burned. We're going all the way now. I think that answers your question, right, in terms of some struggles. I could sum that up a little bit with energy expenditure and staffing and like being able to replicate what I wanted to provide when I wasn't at the gym, right? That's always been a hurdle and still is today with finding other coaches and people to fill in for me or whatever it is. So deliver the product, I should say.
Yeah. With there's a couple things there. One being the transition from kind of like being a boy to a man. Even though you're 26, 27 when you started the gym, like I remember those days too in my 20s. Like you're still kind of a boy, right? Like you're like, yeah, coach all day, take a nap in the afternoon, eat a peanut butter and jelly, go work out, coach the afternoon classes, go have a beer at night. Like it's like that's the life back then. And then you have kids and we had our daughter in 2017, so not too much longer after years. And I remember like it was like more of almost a subconscious shift in like who I was as a person and my priorities. I didn't even really think one day, oh, I'm a different person. It was just like I started doing things different and taking things more seriously. So is that kind of what you experienced on your end? It was like
Absolutely. And I like what you say, like take a nap in the afternoon. I did that. Like I lived about 35, 40 minutes away almost from the gym when I opened this. And I would come in early in the morning. We started at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. class because that's what the market demanded, right? So started at 6. I'd come in early, coach the 6, and then our next class wasn't until 9. And I had a couch upstairs in my mezzanine, and I'd just go upstairs and lay down on this old beat up leather sofa and sleep. And I even had like you can ask some of the old members in here, I had a little flat top like griddle that I used to just crack eggs on, and I'd fry some eggs in there. And the thing was disgusting, Will. I never washed it. And there was mice, they'd come by and you'd find some mice droppings on there. And I had to get like, oh, I got to spray this with something. And anyway, this sounds disgusting. I'm hygienic, guys. But things like that, right? It's a little bit more, you're in that space, you're at that age, your priorities are way different. And then, yeah, like you said, having kids, I mean, it shifts not only from a resource and reality idea of like, I have to provide, but also I think the bigger shift was like I wanted to set a good example too, right? I wanted to lead by example in that respect, and because that's ultimately what we're building, or we're creating little yous or me, right? Whoever your children are. So, and now 3 kids deep, and continue to. It's gotten better and better too with every kid.
yeah. Yeah, that's it's like that transition, man, where you start this business kind of still as a young man, right? In your mid 20s, and you're excited about it. And I see this a lot with gym owners, and a lot of the gyms, especially in the CrossFit world and functional fitness world, a lot of the gyms that are still currently on the market were gyms that opened up 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, when those people were in that same phase of life as you were when you started the gym. And then you see it, and you see them, they get married, they have a kid, and like it starts to become real. Like, oh, like it's no more playing in the sandbox. It's not just, hey, let's find a way to make a couple $1,000 a month and pay our rent,
Mhm.
and eat peanut butter and jellies, or eggs off your rat infested griddle. Like they have to make that transition. Some end up like, the gym stays the same way and it's a side project, and they go and get a corporate job, and you see a lot of that. There's a lot of gym owners now that have like a day job, and then the gym's kind of like the ancillary thing and their passion. And then you have some that elevate into that entrepreneurial, they step into it. They're like, yeah, I'm taking this seriously. I'm not diverting my attention elsewhere. I'm going hard in the paint at this thing. We're going to make this thing real. And you spoke to delegating and building a team, which is super, super important. With any business, there becomes a threshold where like you have to be able to, if not multiply yourself, at least find some leverage of time, right? Because you can't make more time. Especially when you have kids, you don't want to make more time. You're like, I want to be a good dad. I want to be present. And having gotten to know you over the years, like you're a guy that I know that's an important part of your values, is being present with your family and your children, having
Absolutely.
having impact on their lives. So like, even if you could, you wouldn't choose to just double down the amount of time. You've found ways to leverage. So speak to that a little bit. How have you gone about, and I know we've all made the mistakes early in hiring. If you want to share some of the mistakes you've made there, or if you've always been good at it. I know you came into this with a managerial, a little bit of experience, but I think that's something a lot of gym owners need to hear. How did you come up with hiring your team and building your current team?
Yeah, and that was good. You summed up a lot of what I was talking about, and this has always been a big pivot point I've seen in my lifespan of gym ownership and owning an affiliate. And I see a lot of guys and gals get stuck, if you will, right? Or just don't know quite what direction to go with it, or maybe it's even where they want to go. Right? Is this what I want to do? Am I half in? Am I half out? Is this my hobby? Am I going to make this a career? And prior to the delegation, and I'm going to get there, it's, you're talking about rather folks decide to make this a full-time gig or not. And especially nowadays, like, I don't recommend it to anybody who's has kids and a family and other responsibilities. Like, there's a lot of other ways to make money and have a job. Now, if you're overly passionate about fitness, sure, maybe you enter the fitness space. But if you do enter it later in life with more responsibilities, go into, like, buy some time ahead of time. Buy somebody else's knowledge and skills, because knowing this now, I would much rather spend the money to learn what I know now than taking the 5, 6, 8 years it took me when I was goofing around and playing in the sandbox, like you said. And as you get older, more responsibilities, you just don't have that time, right? So we use our other resource. I didn't really have another option, and this is what I wanted to do anyway. But looking back on it too, I didn't finish college. I went to school and I was pursuing education for my previous job when I was a draftsman. I had a short stint in culinary school for about a year, but no formal documentation. To this day, I don't have a college degree. Tons of, you name the certification, I got it over the years, and 20 years of fitness experience, right? I've been in a gym and training, and that's the stuff you can't buy and you can't fake. You just got to spend time on it. So then delegating, finding people to replicate these roles become increasingly hard when my standard is somebody who has 15 or 20 years experience, right? So how do you find trainers? How did I find coaches? Started off really organic, right? It was a guy that used to work out with me at my old gym. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to go over here and open this place up. You coming? He's like, yeah, I'm all in. And his wife worked full time, and he didn't really have a job. He kind of took care of the house, and they didn't have kids. They had some dogs. So he just hung out at the gym all day with me and lifted weights and helped me coach some classes. And we got to a place where he'd close the gym a little bit, right? So I didn't have to be there all night. And then I've had a handful over the years. We haven't had a ton of coach turnover, but I'm slow to hire, right? And quick to make a pivot if there needs to be one. But organically, how is prior to that how I always would look, like who in house, right? Who could I rise up? And not to put a cap on it and say that it's the market's fault, or it's the general population that I coach, that we serve, I should say, inside of the gym. They don't want to do this. Like, they have big boy jobs, right? This is the hour to unplug and get out of it, and they don't want to spend more time here. So that avatar for your 26-year-old coach just didn't exist in my gym. I found a couple unique situations, right? Met a couple of other unique relationships that had that ability, and they were comparable age to me as the time, right? We're in our early 30s now, young families. And there was always I could see a boundary with them wanting to go all in because it's very demanding, especially initially, right? You have to put a ton of blood, sweat, tears into it. You get to pick which 18 hours a day you want to work, but you can pick whatever ones you want, you know? And then I started using some other platforms to search for applicants. Rather, it's, what's the one? I don't even know if they're still up.
I think there was like for a while, Barbell Jobs was like
Barbell
a
Jobs was
yeah.
one. And I did all the main platforms ones too, like Indeed and things like that. And I actually found some really talented individuals on those. And I would have to sift. I mean, I would do 30, 50 phone interviews in a week. And some weeks I was like, nope, none of them, right? Maybe we would do a second one. Maybe they were local so we could come and do an in person, but very seldomly. And out of the 50, maybe one or two would get a second one. And it took arguably hundreds. And I found two of them that I have. One currently still is on my team, full-time guy, career guy. I moved here from out of state. Like I found them states away, explained to them our model, my gym and business system, right? Ascension opportunities, I believe, is very, very important. Helping them map out a career path with you is important. And that's something I can resonate with. And I think a lot of folks that are might probably listening to us right now, they have that entrepreneurial spirit in them, right? Where they want to grow and thrive and acquire more and conquest, right? Not everybody has that, and that's fine, but at least going, hey, here's the A, B, and C of what you need to be doing to raise through the ranks and progress yourself, and then eventually even get some people under you. And there's some level of ceiling to it, right, inside of a micro gym, unless you want to get multiple locations and things of this nature, but there's always going to be some turnover too. It's constantly, I shouldn't say it's a struggle because I am very fortunate right now to have found some full focused individuals. That's what I call them, is full focus, and that's very much what I want on my team. And I like to think that I take good care of them, and when we win, they win. And at the same time, though, Will, I'm always hunting. I have the inbox open. I'm looking for talented individuals that are hungry. It's really what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, and I don't think enough gym owners or people that are small business owners that maybe weren't in like a management hiring role prior to their life as a gym owner understand that hiring people and finding talent for your team is like working leads. It's it's more of almost like a sales prospecting role than it is like an HR role. Like people think it's like hiring is like an HR thing where it's like, oh, paperwork and formalities. It's like, no, building a good team is like you got to collect a lot of leads. You got to work through all those leads to find the few people that align with, kind of get it. There's like an it factor that
Yeah.
it sounds like you kind of hinted at a little bit, which I'd love to hear from you. Like, what is that it factor that stood out to you? Like when you were going through leads, what were you looking for?
And it does become a skill to be able to meet somebody and, I mean, lack of better words, assess their character, learn them quickly. I think even like speed dating or something would be a good like training practice for this. Like how quickly can you get to know somebody and read them? The it factor is real, and not everybody has it, and that's okay. I only want people with it. And I've learned too that if you negotiate on that and you bring in folks that don't have it necessarily, all we're doing is lowering the overall average. And we had a meeting the other day, the team, and that's very much my goal, is like I want to increase the overall average of the team, guys. And not to make it like, oh, nobody's job safe. That's not at all. And they don't take it that way. But if I can find somebody that's better than me at something that I do, guess what? Great. I'm going to hire them because that's the best thing for the business. The it factor, though, definitions, and I like definitions. That's something positive that CrossFit gave us, is somebody that has, I use assertiveness a lot, that sees something that needs to be done, executes, figures it out, is the go-getter in that sense. Self-driven and has that natural creativity, right? Where they're going to problem solve on their own. They're not going to have to come back and say, well, how do I just get a tape measure and figure it out, Sally, right? Whatever it is. And a test I use a lot is I mean, we talk about the shopping carts, talk to my members about the shopping carts, right? Do you guys put away your carts at the store? Do you have integrity? But the paper towel test in the bathroom is the big one. So, and I still check my guys on a daily basis with this, that if I go in the bathroom and there's like just even like a little flake of paper towel, right, that got ripped out of the holder wrong, is hanging out on the ground, we don't walk past it. We are expected to pick that up, right? And when you, again, it's something that I look for, but I believe that if I find people that have that character trait just inherently in them, they're gonna execute with a broad level of scrutiny, with everything and excellence and just a level of perfection, right? Because they're not okay with the subpar. Oh, there's paper towel on the floor. But that's something too, Will, that I found that I can't teach. Can't teach it.
It's almost like a form of integrity, right? It's like integrity, like the root word of the word integrity is integral. Like it's integral within you. Like
Yeah.
that person just has high standards for who they are, right? Like you don't have to tell them to hold the door open for a lady. They're just going to do it, right? Like it's just the kind of person they are, right? You know, and they're resourceful too. That's one of my favorite quotes in like all of business. I always try to remember is that it's not your lack of resources that gets you in trouble. It's your lack of resourcefulness, right? Like the resources are out there at our fingertips, especially right now on the internet. Like anybody can figure out how to do anything, but most people don't even know how to do a proper Google search, right? And that's a kind of just an analogy, but it's the same with like hiring team. Like there's people that want to come in and be like, that won't do anything unless you tell them what to do. And then there's people that they can see the environment, they can see the space, they can see what the overall vision and mission is for what you're trying to do is, and they can put together those small pieces and they can say, okay, yeah, like the toilet paper is running low. I can see that 4 or 5 more rotations, that thing's going to be empty and it's just going to be a toilet paper roll. We probably should replace that now versus wait for it to sit there and then someone stuck on the toilet has awkwardly asked us to walk out of the bathroom with the mud butt. Like,
Yeah. No, you're right. And you can't teach that. Their resourcefulness. And then, okay, so yes, them coming to the table with that is very valuable, especially when I was a smaller business, and I still am a small business, but even increasingly important when it's one or two, right, operators in the gym. I think there's some room to flex on that. The bigger you get and the more teammates you have a clear definition and schedule though, right? And it has to be, here's the expectation, here's the SOP behind it, here's how it looks. Do you have comprehension? And we talk through it, right? Here, watch me do it. Great. Now you do it. Let me see you do it. Okay. Is there any gray area? Is my expectation meeting the reality of what just happened? Yes or no? Fix it if not. Cool, it is. Great. Then you can be on. And now they have those rails to work inside of, right? And you always have something to go back to. And that's something that I've evolved a lot with, and I am still constantly working on, and I know it's a deficiency in me, is plotting that stuff out and creating more operating procedures and clear expectations of here's what it needs to look like, here is the delivery, rather it's the product or the way we onboard people or the way we sell things. So there is a clear, repeatable process.
yeah.
It's valuable.
Yeah. It's the build the plane as you fly it mindset is what I think you have. So I wouldn't say you have a deficiency. I think you share something that I think most all the best performers in the Big Little Gyms tribe, which you're one of, like all kind of share that mentality and philosophy. And we can be hard on ourselves and tell ourselves we suck at it, but I think we're also the types that are like sell first and then fix what breaks along the way and
For sure.
build the plane as you fly it, because you not only do you grow faster that way, but you find out what you really need to put your energy into, because like the problems become really apparent versus like the people, there's the inverse people that are, call them like more operator mindset, that want to SOP everything first and like, I'm going to build the perfect business. And then they go to, before they've even really sold or hit any critical mass of customers to where they have enough problems to solve, like they've overbuilt it. And then they find out that like half of the things they built like don't really apply anyways. And like, there's still problems that need to be fixed, you know?
For sure. Yeah. Or you don't even need it, right? You don't even need to do this or put that much energy into your onboarding or your retention, right? You don't know what the problem is yet. So, yeah, letting the market dictate that for sure. But once you figure it out too, and that's some areas of the business, our nutrition as an example, like I have a really good system on how to deliver that now, how to talk through it, how to onboard people into it. And we've cataloged all of that. And it's worked to the capacity. Now I can bundle it up, and I have a young lady on team that coaches the nutrition, right? And she still changes things and we learn and we grow and evolve, but at least there's something. There's something to go back to. Rather it's here's how you hand the person the packet or here's how you book your initial intro Zoom call, right? I got all the steps laid out for them, which has been very, very helpful. Allows you to
Yeah.
buy some time downstream.
Yeah. Yeah. Once it breaks, fix it. And, don't just put a Band-Aid on it, but make that an SOP and then just drill that SOP with the team, right? And be like, hey, this is the way we're doing things, right, guys? And it's just, that's good leadership, which is something you build that character the longer you're in business. And also, like as small business owners, it's not like we get that many opportunities to do this, right? Like big companies, even mid-sized companies will hire hundreds of people. And so the people in charge of hiring there get a lot of opportunity to make hires, make mistakes, build SOPs, watch stuff break. Like they're iterating way faster. Us as like gym owners and small business owners, it's like, oh, like I might only iterate on my SOPs like once or twice a year because they don't really break that often. And I'm also not hiring people that frequently to really like expose like where I can be better, right? So it is something that we have to like probably work out a little bit behind the scenes on ourselves in preparation for those things. But then also, like it's just going to take a little bit longer to consider yourself a world-class operator, like as a gym owner. It's going to take some years to get there, to get enough reps to like know what that looks like. And then, going to like talking about your situation with the pandemic, one of the things you shared with me prior to jumping on the call was like surviving the shutdowns. That was something, you had a solid business prior to the shutdowns and, but it really was kind of a, like you said earlier, a little bit more of a build it and you will come business. Like you were doing some of this stuff, but Zach, I know a lot of those shifts have been made in the last, since the shutdowns. That's also what you've shared was like, that's where a lot of your growth to current date has, because not only did you surpass where you were prior to the shutdowns, because you lost 35% of your members. And then you came back upon reopening and you not only caught those numbers, but you like doubled your gym in that 2 years since, what were some of how did you navigate those challenges? I know you came along Big Little Gyms. I know that was meaningful, but go ahead and share some of the things that you changed since that period of time when you came back.
Yeah, I think everybody in the fitness space that was, went through 2020 and all that business, a lot of the forced shutdowns and mandates and stuff. I think we all felt a lot of that. And we don't need to make it all about that era, but it was a pivotal point. It was a pivotal point with a lot of businesses that they're either gonna go out, they're gonna go under, they're gonna get bought up, they're gonna get taken over, or they're gonna persevere, figure it out, learn a ton, because that's really what that time was. It was like accelerated learning for me. I figured out so much stuff because I had to, that when things settled down, if you will, we were going to the moon. And we met, so I started with Big Little Gyms in, I think, 21.
Yeah, I think it was 21. I was trying to recall myself.
Yeah, Big Little Gyms was still pretty early, right? First year or something like that.
Yeah, it was like it was the end of my first year taking this seriously. We started in 2019, but I still in my gym and I was still kind of half in, half out with that.
Yeah, and it was, I remember sitting in my basement talking to you on the phone. And I had like this weird insulation wall behind me, and you're like, what are you, like on a spaceship? What is it?
You were like in a closet.
It was my office in the old house we were in, the little dungeon hole, right, that the dad always gets. But and I gotta be transparent with you too, and I think this is valuable for listeners to hear on this. The gym guru scene is, well, and even back then, 2019, 2020, they were out there, and you didn't necessarily claim to be a gym guru, but you were a gym accelerator, right? You were there to help gyms with specific pieces, rather it was CRM or mentorship or lead gen, whatever it was. There was a couple big tickets that Big Little Gyms put out there. And so did some other companies, right? There were some other companies out there that I had talked to prior, mainly because they just poke at me initially, say, hey, you own a gym. And I interviewed with them, or I'd see what their product, and I never found I was looking for something the last year or two, or during 2020 and on, and I never found something that seemed like it really aligned with what I was trying to do, or had allowed enough freedom for my flavor to come through. And I got on with you and still had a little bit I was super excited after our call, but you know, a little bit of the carrying some of the ego, like why do I need this guy though, right? Why do I need this service? I can do it. And I understand what to do. Why am I not already doing it? And I decided to take the leap, and I say leap, I made the choice to hire Big Little Jim, start working with him. And that was a pivotal place once I got my butt in gear and I started doing the work. I did, right? You would vouch for that from the beginning. It helped tremendously, and I think rather it's, you know, one of the other thousand guru type places out there, that the biggest point of impact that I saw, and I can kind of zoom back out and go and look, was the same stuff I preach and sell in the gym. It was the accountability of it. It was, I had skin in the game. I'm paying the bill. I'm held responsible. I have a coach now. That's what it was. I have a coach. I have clear goals. I have clear guidelines and a roadmap on how to get there. Go do it. Go execute it. You already know what to do, man, right? And if you don't, here's this. Go do this. And that just it accelerated it. Like, it allowed me to refocus, actually hit goals, set goals first, right? I wasn't even setting them on a regular basis. So the simple practice of speaking them into the universe or talking to them inside of our pod groups and calls, uh, it was great. And I never, when you're in, and it still is great, I'm still part of it. But when you're inside of it and you're doing it day to day, you don't necessarily see it because you're still just running. You're constantly going and you're looking for the next thing and where you can go back and fix something and rebuild it or pull this lever because you need this to happen. And anyhow, I'm going on a little bit of a rant about my experience with it, but that's a takeaway that I don't see people seeing. You know, you get on the interwebs and the Facebook groups and everybody's like, all right, guys, so I'm looking at, you know, push press, Modify, Jim Grow, like all these other programs. And what's the difference? You know, and people are missing it. They're
Yeah.
missing it. And it's like they all can bring a little something different to the table, but none of it's going to work unless you work. So you have to find a tribe of people that you can get along with and you find some support and camaraderie with. And you feel inherently, and this is a real thing too, and stuff that I coach with my clients, that you feel responsibility not to let your peers down. You will always let yourself down. Like, if you don't have anybody else to report back to. Does that, you see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody in any walk of business that I know that's at the top of the game in their respective game, whatever their business is, whatever their niche is, that I know, they all have like coaches or some sort of support or at least some frameworks to operate within, like whether, you know, and there's different ways you can get the help you need. Some people really like mentorship. Some people really like systems. Some people, you know, just need to get better at a specific part of the game, right? Sometimes it's all of it. Sometimes it's holistic. But all the people at the best that are at the top of the game or whatever the game is are looking for those resources because like it is the ego that gets in the way. Like I have it. Like my business has continued. My businesses have always been successful. Like you said, but even I hit bottlenecks and I hit brick walls and then I get frustrated and it's like same. We know the things that we should do, but sometimes it's surprisingly simple what we need to do next and setting that ego aside to say, okay, let's get some clarity. Let's fix some systems. Let's get some next steps. Like you said, set some goals, break that down into how we get there and then take action. Like on the other side of that can be like a 2-3x from where you are. And like sometimes it really takes a lot to get on the other side of that. So, you know, you're spot on. I mean, you're more or less.
But, and I might be spot on, but I've also been on the other side of it. And I can see the people that are listening to this, right? And they're like, I can do it. I've listened to it. I've listened to people pitch it. I know what their process and system is, and I can't, and whatever. People will figure it out for themselves. And this isn't necessarily a plug either or anything. And whatever program people decide to go with, or hopefully they do seek mentorship if that's what they're looking for. But you're not different. Like you're not different. And especially coming from somebody that I wasn't gifted this gym, right? I wasn't gifted this team of people. I was a guy without a college degree that was 27 and or 28 and had his first kid and like had to make it work, right? and it's what I wanted to do. I selected this avenue of business, this field, but I just figured it out as far as I could. And then of course, and I didn't have money earlier to buy anybody else's time or skill or resources, so I just worked my tail off. And back to the shutdown stuff, like, when we closed, is it fine if I go into a little bit of that, like what we did? And
Oh yeah, that was my very next question, is like you going from that 170, 350 members, like, practically, pragmatically, tactically, however you want to share it. I would love for you to share any takeaways of things that specifically you were like, hey, when we did this
yeah,
had this outcome. Yeah, please.
I wish it was that easy. Like the one
Yeah.
thing, guys, the one thing you need to be doing,
Said every guru ever. Just do
right?
this one thing.
You'll get 100 members in 30 days. We were at that ceiling, if you will, that a lot of micro gyms hit, the 150 to 170, under 200 people for some time. And I was like fine with it. Like, all right, cool. Making a couple grand every month. We can pay the bill. I can pay an assistant coach. I got food on the table, whatever, we're fine. But that quickly, you can't keep up with inflation, right? I'm unable to buy a home. I can't hire more staff. I mean, all the stuff starts breaking. It's like you got to make more if you want to make it great. And I wanted to make it great. So I had a vision for that, and that's still very much something I do day in and day out. It's like, what can I do to make this better for the experience, for the member, for the client, every single day. I've been doing that for years.
Do you sit down, and when you go to do that, do you have time that we call it a power hour here at Big Little Gyms, like for the gym owners that don't have that organization or that don't naturally think to do that. Like we tell them, like, hey, do a power hour, which is like an hour of like, whatever revenue generating activity, if that's what it needs to be for you. Do you sit down and put aside time like that and block it
Yeah,
out?
I do some time blocking through the week where it's, I still do some lead nurturing, right? An hour of calls or creative time, program review time, meeting schedule stuff. What I was just hinting at too is like that's always pressing on my head though, is when I think about, because it's easy to get the shiny ball syndrome, the lady in the red dress, whatever you want to call it, and you're like, oh, I need to do this. Eh, do you? Do you need to add a 12-week foundation course? Do you need to add an Olympic lifting seminar? Do you? Or can you just do what you're doing a lot better? Is there room for improvement still? So that stuff floats through my head on a daily basis. Like, how can we improve the experience? Rather it's, the parking situation for my members, to I just put in some boot scrubbers out front of both entrances of the gym. It's winter here and something people knock their shoes off, right? I bought a new vacuum cleaner for the gym. We got the best of the best fans, like little stuff like that, right? But I believe all of that compounded over time helps dramatically. COVID stuff, shutdown, right? We're going back to work. We're at 170-ish members. I lost 30-ish% of them, which comparatively speaking seemed to be pretty good. I saw a lot of gyms lose a lot more, and this isn't necessarily a brag or a boast about it, but I just did what naturally felt like right to me. And we were quickly told that we can't go to the gym anymore because, well, whatever. We were told we couldn't. And so the first thing I did is send out communication to everybody, and I loaned out every piece of equipment in the gym. Everybody got something. Pair of dumbbells, a dumbbell, bands, all my rowers, all my bikes, all my barbells. We just split it all up. Everybody left with something. And the people that didn't, I was even strategic. Like, they lived on the same street, right? Members were honest, and they're like, well, I have a little rack at the house and a bar. I'm like, cool. Are you good? All right, excellent. Because this, like, that's back then too. You couldn't buy dumbbells anywhere. They were gone, man.
Yeah.
And so I loaned everything out and took stuff online, and I created a YouTube channel, and we actually got pretty good at it for the, the small amount of time we had to work on it. Innovated, right? And figured out a way to film video and cut and edit it. And we got cool graphics in there, and even me like doing a whiteboard presentation and movement demos. And it helped retain a lot of folks. And I also, retaining members was in the back of my head, but also like I felt a deep responsibility to help these people and give them something to do, because that was a real pressing time for folks. And all of a sudden you take away their community and their tribe and their hour. So what can we do to help keep them moving and engaged and fit and like, blow off some steam. I mean, that's what so much of this stuff is. And anyhow, we came back together and gym reopened, and we obviously had to rebuild a little bit. And I had a lot of the early days mentality going in me at that point, where I was by myself. I lost all my coaches. So it was just me again, right? And I'm working open to close, and I'm doing all the things, and I'm there on the weekends for 6 hours, mopping the floors and cleaning by hand still. And like, I did it all again. And it definitely lights a fire in you. Like, I enjoy work. I don't like the idle hand syndrome. That's not my goal with running a business. I never want to get to a place where I'm like, oh, I'm done. Not at all. I'm going to find something to do.
You like getting your hands dirty.
Absolutely. And I think that having some of that spark in me and then drive, because now all of a sudden we're not comfortable, right? It was a combination of that where I'm like, this is good. This is fun. I like this. I like the game of business itself. I've come to like it. I mean, I still enjoy fitness and coaching. So having some of that fire relit, and then knowing too that I want to get back to the position we were in, and some, right? I was also a lot more educated. I already owned the gym for 7 or so years. So I knew a lot of stuff, going almost like restarting, if you will, right? And I could accelerate it. Now, mentorship was obviously a big part of that too, to help set goals, check in on the goals, get a push. Like, that goal's too easy. No, Zach, you've been there. Don't do that. Oh, what's my 300 members? That's way too many. I don't know about that. Well, why not? Right? So start to really change your mindset and your identity about who you want to become and where you can go with things. Tactically speaking, that's kind of what you're looking for, right? A little bit like tactically speaking, what do we do?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I love how you set it up there, though. You broke your own beliefs, or I know me and you working together early on. I saw it in you, and I think you did too. I don't think you were unaware of this, because I knew you knew you could sell. But when you started with us and we started having some success, there was I remember pushing to say, hey, lean into this, man. Keep going, keep leaning towards the sales role, keep leaning towards volume and client acquisition. And I know for you, prior to the shutdowns and prior to knowing us, from what I gathered from takeaways from our original call, was that you weren't really doing a lot of proactive lead generation, client acquisition stuff. It was kind of the old school mindset of build it, they will come. They'll find us through their friends or whatever. There wasn't really a lot of lead generation.
Yeah, no. This is good. That's exactly what the right steer here I needed to get down. And that's back to early adopter days. You open the gym, and we almost made it hard to contact us. You'd email, and it would go to my Zach at Gmail, whatever. And it would just sit there, and I'd open it, and I might send you one back in 3 days, right? And say are you sure you want to do this? It's really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea, right?
Not by much. I remember looking at your original website when me and you met, and I remember being
yeah, you had a cringe face.
I did. I remember well, what I always do when I meet with a client is I go and I do some homework, and I look and see okay, how hard is it to find them? Because most people don't understand that there's getting found, and then there's converting the people that find you into leads so they can actually be followed up with. And I remember looking you up and being hey, this guy's already pretty well ranked on Google, just because you didn't do that. You weren't there on purpose. You were just there because you had been in business longer than everybody else before you. So you were at the top. So I remember talking to you and being hey man, you're at the top of Google. You're probably getting a few hundred page views a month just from people finding you from this Google search. And you were that's cool. I didn't know that. But I'm hey, your landing page is basically talking me out of doing business with you. Let's fix this. And I know that was
no. It's good, and I feel like you just twist the knife a little bit. You remember? Do you remember?
Remember how bad it was, Zach?
It was bad, but that's what I needed, is somebody to be yeah, I feel like. And you were a lot nicer about it back then, anyway. Before we knew each other.
We could talk about it in retrospect a little bit more in jest. You know what I mean? We could be in jest about it now because we know each other. But yeah,
and you're right though. I had been on the platform for a bunch of years, right? I had my little Wix website that we built, and I think we used another a WordPress prior to that. And it was an in-house client of mine. Actually, he's still a member of the gym. He was my first personal training client I ever had. He's been following me around now for 20 couple years, 22 years. His name is, a little shout out to Zig. I talked to him this morning about an email issue. And the optimization, the Google presence was there because I was the first micro gym in my town. So there was a 24-hour place up the street, and a ladies kind of dance aerial yoga class or something up the road.
Zumba yoga, something like that.
Right, right. But that was it. I was it. I was CrossFit, but I was also the first like coach led micro gym in town. And there's, oh Lord, what is there, like seven now? And I mean, inside of 6 miles, and two of them are, we can unpack that later too if you like. Two of them were derivatives of my gym,
As
coach
the story
led.
goes, right? Like if you're the best guy in town, you're gonna spawn
That's all right.
derivatives, you know.
Absolutely. And so we had presence on Google. We had been in there. I think that was that's a great tool in general to leverage if you need lead generation, if you want to expand your presence. Do not sleep on the Google work. Some of that is time, right? You just got to spend time on there. But you can also be super proactive, man. And rather it's reviews or getting in there on a daily, on a weekly basis and engaging with your customers. There's stuff you can do through the maps. You can get on there and advertise products, sessions, clinics, put pictures up. Like you can take pictures around the building and it knows where the picture's taken and it will help Google locate you better. I mean, there's been other gyms when I travel and I go to look them up and they're like their Google tags not even in the right spot. And you pull the pin up and you pull up to like this dead end road at a field and you're like,
Where's the gym?
right, the gym's over there in the strip mall or something because they never scanned the QR code and like authenticated where they were. But
You
that
you
was go ahead.
I was saying you got like I think 200 plus reviews. So like what that's done for you, you know, getting away from the blocking and tackling of it, but just like the reason to do the work is like the example you gave of like originally it was just you, so it was easy for people to find you because you were the only game in town for someone who wanted that community group fitness style gym that was kind of CrossFit-ish.
Yeah.
But now you got competition. But what you've done is you've made it very clear that like you are the category king in the area because you've got 200 plus reviews. You respond to every review. You've got all the optimizations done on there to make it easy for Google to know what you're doing, because what's good for Google is what's good for you, because Google, I mean, really, it's not that complicated, right? If you give Google what it needs to better index you at the top, it's going to do that if the other guys in town don't, because you're making Google's job easier, right? And if you do that, then they're going to put you at the top.
And that's it. Like once I took this more seriously and as a profession, it's like you start to realize there's going to be others and others are fine, right? Healthy competition, if you will. Like there's always other places to eat out. There's always going to be a dollar menu too. That's fine. The steakhouse was always going to have a packed line. It doesn't matter. We definitely pride ourselves on being a lot of bit more of the premium elevated experience too, with the full-time, full focus, heavily educated, experienced coaches, right? All the value we put inside a membership. And we have a massage therapist here now, a chiropractor on team. We have other smaller group options. We have some stuff caters towards the older population, I mean, you name it, right? We got some cold pools out back now and always trying to elevate it, right? And be the category king, like you said, and be the face, the name for all things fitness inside of the town. Regardless if there's competition, other offers out there, like you can't fake the time it takes to require. You can't speed that up, right? So even if somebody is going to try and catch, I'm confident we're going to be better because that's what we do. We're going to be better, but we're also going to be that much further ahead because I'm not stopping. Like we're gaining momentum still. We actually just crested 400. I got my 420th review yesterday. So yeah, we're knocking on up there. And the other guys are being good on them. I've seen some of them go from 16 to 2. Cool. But right, like social proof is huge.
Yeah, you're pulling the whole market up, right? Naturally, they're going to see that. They're going to see this huge gap between where you're at and where they are, and they're going to try to close it. But if you have such a overwhelming gap, like, and it's essentially like the day you stop working, it just lets them close the gap, right? But if you're just constantly making this a priority, which I know you do, like I'm guessing you probably, and you can share with everybody if you want, but I'm guessing you probably have like a regular occurrence upon which you go in and get more reviews and add more photos and update and respond and give Google more information. And as long as you're doing that, no matter what anybody else does in town, you're going to maintain your spot and that margin between you.
Yeah, and that's something that BLG pushed out of the gate and created some nice packaged up tools and systems too to acquire reviews upon new members. And at the end of the day, like if you do a really good job and you just ask people, they'll probably do it for you, right? But you also have to have the discipline to remember to ask them, to make it a priority. So that was one piece of it. The landing page, the website funnel, if you will, was another huge one. And you said it. Mine was terrible. The one you made, BLG made for me, was fantastic. Worked 1,000% better, I should say. Right? Didn't really, well, I say change a lot. Changed the amount of friction that was involved, and that was definitely eye opening. It's like, oh, okay, and that took me back to the old gym days when I used to manage the Globo gym too, where now I'm back in the pool of leads, and it's I enjoyed that too, and I'm fishing for people, and I get to talk to people and interact with people and get hung up on, and get people that submit a ticket, and I call them, and they're like, I didn't submit that. Well, actually, you did, ma'am, and you were interested in fitness, and have those conversations and try and really break people down and open them up, see how we can help. That was a huge piece, as simple as that is. And then, but of course, you have to be able to feed that beast. So, right, you got to open funnel, right? You're starting to crank open that fire hose a little bit. More water's coming out. Where's it going to go? So then you got new problems to solve. Then it takes more time to sort through those people, follow up with those people, fulfill for those people, sell for those people, ask those people for referrals and reviews. It's all the things. And then, of course, building a team around that and being able to delegate people to help you with those um, helps a ton. Last piece I have anyway on like one of the big tactical things you can do if you're trying to actively grow. I mean, those two, yes. We have a proper landing page funnel, right? Pay attention to your Google. Do really good work and ask people to bring their friends. Like if you do work, they will want to bring their friends. They will be proud of it. In fact, January thus far, I think we've done 6, maybe 7 new members that were referral based, which is super cool. And I'm not even promoting like a friend day this month or any incentive behind it. They're like, this is freaking awesome. My girlfriend would love to do this. Can I bring her Tuesday? Absolutely. So that's really cool to see, that people are proud of it.
Yeah, yeah, like referral, like a lot of businesses will rely on referral as their only source of traffic. A lot of gyms that come to us, like prior to getting good marketing stuff in place, the only thing they're doing to get new members is referral stuff, and that's great. Big problem is like as your gym grows, as you got 200, 250, 300 members, even at a low churn rate, even at say like a 3% churn rate, if you have 200 members, 3% of 200 is, what is that, like 6 people a month you're losing. So you have to, if you only have referral, that means you're relying on your existing members to refer 7 or more people to grow that particular month, right? For you, it's like what you've done is, you have the referral stuff too, but you're out there getting, I know you have the organic stuff we just talked about. I know you're also, ads have been a big thing. You guys do, you've poured fuel on that fire. Now that you've got a good conversion mechanism to get you leads, you're promoting the gym through advertising, and you're playing that game, right? Because for you, like at 350 members, 5% churn rate, which is fantastic. But that means that, at 350 members, that means you can churn anywhere between 10 to 15 members a month, which means to keep growing, you have to sign at least that many or more, right? So that's where it's kind of nice, is now you have this referral traffic. The more members you go and sell through other traffic sources leads to more referral traffic down the road, which gives you that extra padding, right?
For sure. And I don't want to skew numbers either. It's been a while since I've even talked numbers in that respect with you, but when we crested over 300, closer to 330, 350, we did see an increase in churn closer to 6 to even some months was 8. I found when we were closer to 300, right around that 300 border, we were still able to hold 5, and which was cool to me to see. Uh, like maintaining that 5% or less, which historically we were under, 200. I had 2%, not even, right? And it kills the gym owner's soul a little bit too, especially the fire breathing enthusiasts, like passionate ones. They're just like, oh, I compete. You take it
Yeah.
personally, and it still hurts me
Yeah,
to
it's
this
one of
day.
those beliefs I have to break with gym owners when they come on and they start growing and they start to sell more new members, and the gym starts to get bigger and churn rates start to rise as a part of that growth. Like the volume doesn't just rise, the rate rises, right? And
Absolutely.
it's easy to have a 2% churn rate when you have 150 members. I'll see small gym owners like bragging about how they never lose a member. It's like, well, of course, you only have 150 people. They all know you personally and go to your holiday party. Like no one's going anywhere. But when you have 300 people and you're 2 steps disconnected from them on the coaching floor sometimes, it's a different game, and you have to figure out some of what you talked about earlier with staff and things like that to retain those people and all that good stuff.
And yeah, that's I was saying it was cool to see that. I mean, cool, right? But you start to figure out where the system breaks and what's the best way to combat that without letting your hair turn gray. It's like what is the product? Well, the product are eyes and ears and help and people. So more coaches. Now you got to have the coaches with the coaches that have the gab, and that genuinely care. Like that's you can't. People can smell that out too, right? I mean, you want people on the team that care about other people's success. But I make that a huge focus with my team. And we talk about movement and things of that nature too, athletic progression, but getting coaches to engage and network and build rapport and build relationships, and it makes the whole experience that much better too. And it makes it better for the member, makes it better for the coach, makes everybody's job easier. Referrals come more. So we have a pretty hard, not pretty hard. I have a outline, our SOP, if you will. It's coaches are to be, we're present in the gym. We're on the floor 15 before, 15 after class. Like our classes are 60 minutes, but the shift is 90, right? Because that's really the sweet spot. And because everybody knows this who's been doing it for a while. It's more than an hour of fitness, right?
Oh yeah. Especially for the coach. I remember we had a young girl who coached for us for a while, and thought she was going to be a CrossFit Games athlete. She was like 19 and training in our gym and had all day to train, right? But she was also a coach, and she would go work out like literally up till minutes before her coaching her class. We've all had this. I'm sure you probably had this. You might even still have it now. Well, it sounds like you don't, because you make coaches partition time before and after, but she would show up to coach the class. This was a lesson learned from me to not allow this. She would like finish doing like a benchmark workout and just destroyed herself and is in outer space still, and then has now got to warm up the group, and that drug the experience down of the whole program.
Absolutely. And I mean, I was guilty of it too in the early days. Like class would be piling in. I got my shirt off, covered in sweat, just ripping pull-ups and right. And back then too, it was kind of cool because you got a class of like 6, and they're like, "Yeah,
They're
coach."
rooting for you. They're like, "Yeah, I get it, Zach."
I'm like, I get my hands bleeding. Hang on, guys, we're gonna start with some squats, and I still led a proper group and coach people, but absolutely. I mean, that's the difference, right, between the clubhouse, the hobbyist, the sandbox, if you will. We can call it whatever, versus having a professional experience, and it becomes so much more maintainable downstream. Like you're just going to be able to keep it and do it for longer this way. So, did she ever go to the games?
Did I ever go to the games?
I don't know. The young lady you were mentioning.
No.
She didn't go. Man, I hear it all the time. I'm training for the games. They just don't ever seem to go. I don't know what the.
Yeah, she didn't make it. I mean, it was those early days, though. It was like, I think 2016, 2017. It wasn't early days necessarily for the games, but it was still that time where like
Oh, yeah.
you didn't have people like being bred for the CrossFit Games from like 5 years old, right? Like it was still like if you were in your early 20s, you had a chance if you had trained hard for like 4 or 5 years, and she was kind of in that spot.
Sure.
Yeah.
You had to work out 2-3 hours a day. Yeah, in 2016, that's all you needed still, and you were like pretty good. I mean, it used to be like something I talked about when I was a young man. I mean, I go to regionals, right? I mean, I don't know about the games, but I could get to regionals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
She was full of hope, and we weren't stopping her. And at the time, that culture was. I mean, we had a part of our gym that was into that, and it wasn't everything, but we never let that get away from us as like a games gym. We never had anybody go to the games, but we had a work hard culture from the top down, and it was like whatever your goals are, we work hard.
Sure.
So it's cool to see that.
Absolutely.
Obviously you've had a lot of success in the last couple of years, and I always like to ask everybody who comes on the show who's worked with us as a quick little, I guess, plug, if you will, for us. You've already kind of spoken to some of the benefits of working with us, so I'm not going to ask those questions, but I would ask you, like, what would you say to another gym owner who's considering working with big little gyms?
Ask yourself why you're considered doing it, and I don't mean that in a rhetorical like. Why would you do such a thing? But going in with some ideas of what you're hoping to gain from it will help you see the light that much quicker, and will help make the depends on where you're at and your mindset, right? If you look at it as a painful thing and submitting to needing coaching or help or choosing to get some mentorship and guidance and tools, but going and knowing where you think some areas of improvement should be. And if you've been doing it for a while, you probably got an idea of your deficiencies at this point. Give it a shot. I mean, just like trying a class, right? Come and work out. You guys, I say you guys, people that are listening probably do this on a, whether it's CrossFit or whatever their gym is, like come and work out. Give it a shot. And if you hate it, you don't have to come back, right? Hopefully we can still be friends. But I know my other fellow gym owners on here listening, they maybe they force them in anyway. Like, you can't leave, you got to sign up. But hopefully they're like, well, if you freaking hate this and you want to jump on a trampoline and shake, freaking dumbbells in the air, that's not what we do, but you should probably leave and go do that somewhere else. So I went off the path there.
No, I think your point there is like, if you're ready to, if you're ready to work hard and commit to, overcoming those deficiencies, that I would echo that myself as the founder of Big Little Gyms, that like, yeah, like that's what we want as clients too. Like we're not, we run a pretty small, lean team. We're not trying to, oversell the thing. And we want everybody who works with us to be able to say like, yeah, this works if you work, versus like a lot of the people out there pitching stuff at gym owners are trying to sell like a, magical wand. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, there's no magical wand in business. Like the stuff we're doing is going to be holistic in its nature, and it's all based on principles that work for anybody as long as you're willing to get to work. So I appreciate that, saying that, Zach, because that's what we want too.
And be prepared to work, but even if you don't think you're ready to work, if you're like, I'm too busy, right? That's what you're going to hear. I'm too busy. You're not. First off, you're not too busy. You haven't figured out what to eliminate to create room to do what's important. But give it a shot and know that the momentum that is BLG is going to swallow you up in a positive way, and it's going to help you get to work. That said, I'm not saying if you're generally not going to do any work, don't bring down the average either, right? Because you said it, Will. You like to bring in hardworking folks that want to put into the group, right? And it's a lot of collaborative space and time and efforts and round table discussion. So that's a big piece of value too, to have like-minded individuals that do push you, and then you rise to the common denominator of it. And we're trying to raise the overall average of that group. Correct?
Yeah, 100%, man. That's what we want. Yeah, and that's to echo that, spot on. I mean, and honestly, if someone's not ready to do that, like they'd have to ask themselves the question of whether or not they want to even do what they're doing for their business, right? It's like if you don't want to grow the thing, and because businesses in themselves are like their own entities, right? Like that, like when we birth a business, we birth like a living, breathing thing that's not us. It's an extension. It might be an extension of us, kind of like our child is, right? It's like there's a little bit of you in that, but that's not you. It's its own collection of experiences that it evolves to, and you have to do right by it, and it needs to grow. It needs to thrive on its own, separate from you. And for any business owner that just wants to like keep trudging along just because like there's too much ego there to like either shit or get off the pot, if you will, your time might be better spent elsewhere,
For sure.
helping go get a job and help someone build their business, right? Maybe that person does need to go get a corporate job and climb the ladder so they can have their life back, because maybe they're just too burnt out on their gym or whatever, and they can't make that leap. But I really appreciate it, Zach. I really appreciate those kind words, and a quick little plug for BLG. I want to get into our rapid fire round with you to bring it home, which is just a quick few questions I like to ask every gym owner to get to know them a little bit better and just tell us a little more about you. Which the first one I like to ask everybody is like, what's your favorite workout or movement? Like if you can only do one movement, or like there's one workout you love. I know for CrossFit gym owners, there's the benchmark workouts, or like certain workouts, you could speak to those. But yeah, share what your one thing is that you would like to do.
I'm gonna go on like a practical front, like one movement, because we could get into workouts and I could pick workouts with all the things that I like in them. But on a functional, I really like some ring work. I like a ring muscle up. I like was a gym rat earlier in my career and just had strong biceps, so I could do them kind of out of the gate. I couldn't. I got taught, but like to stay functionally fit, between that and probably a barbell snatch. But again, this is very practical front. Like, what is the one tool I need to keep myself fit, strong, and healthy? If I had to pick one, workout itself, to give you multiple answers, I don't know what workout it would be. Probably not a CrossFit workout on a regular, right? Probably not just a CrossFit workout, but some other type of bro split.
Yeah, I was gonna say as we've gotten older, it's changed, right? Back in the early days, we probably would have been like, yeah, let's do Fran and just
Yeah.
hammer it, and then now we're like, actually, a push pull, a push pull day with some good, good tempo work mixed in and like good balance to it, and look good, feel good, play good.
I'm actually a big fan of the full body split nowadays. You do a little bit of everything, keeps the joints feeling good. It's not too much repetitive movement. I'm being genuine too. I mean, I do some CrossFit as well, absolutely, but and Olympic lift, and I do ring muscle ups. But anyway, yes, that's my answer.
Yeah, no, I love it. The core to extremity movements, like ring muscle ups and like snatches, are like those. Well, they won't get you. Given like people that can do those well do have an aesthetic, but like you're not getting jacked doing either of those things. They're more like speed, technique. They are like the movement in itself and how good you are at it is the outcome, and it is very like practical. It's like muscle up is like if I'm hanging from the edge of a building, can I pull myself up on it and
Yep.
survive, right? Snatch, there's something on the ground. Can I get it overhead the farthest point that I can reach from my body standing up and support it, right? Like two very practical, real things that come down to earth that like are a sign of how fit and mobile you actually are. And then, yeah, like you said, doing workouts that are probably more sustainable than just beating yourself up every day, trying to like race the clock or race for reps or whatever, right? I'm with you on that. Next question for you. What's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
Jump, go, like whatever you're thinking about, you think you need to do. You got goals, dreams, aspirations that you're looming about, but you have fear, and that's what's holding you back. Drop the fear and do it. Do it now. Don't wait.
Yeah, time is the one thing you realize later on, given neither of us are that old. But, definitely if you have kids and you start counting the hours in the day and just not enough of them, you realize like
Yep.
how for granted you take time when you're younger, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I rather it's, I'm going to pivot it back to business, right? Rather it's like I'm thinking about, because I thought about starting my gym for a while, right? Oh, I could do this. I could run this. Why didn't I do it sooner? Right? I was scared of the idea of failing. Nobody wants to fail, you know? But rather it's that or asking the girl on the date, right? That you're hesitant for failure or rejection, or applying for the job, or starting to go to school to learn what you want to do. But just do it. Do it now if it's something you want to do.
Yeah. Let the iteration of failure along the way be the guide for where you should end up, right?
Hmm.
More or less.
Sounds easy, but
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. We can boil it down to quotables and stuff like that all day, but it's definitely, I mean, I'm sure if we go back and chart the path in detail of how we get here, both of us would be like, it wasn't a straight line.
no.
It's very much ping ponging back and forth until you kind of landed in this place and you're like, okay, this is what I'm good at, What's one book or resource that you'd say every gym owner, or, speaking more broadly for maybe people who are aspiring gym owners or just business owners, or, I mean, it doesn't have to be for business ownership, but just a book or resource you think someone should read?
Yeah, I mean, there's many, and I've read a lot. We're close to all of them, and um, I'm always a student though, and still learning and writing down ideas and what should I read next, what do I want to get better at. If I had to pick one, I got to pick one. Uh, I think mindset. I'm gonna go with mindset. Mindset was a pivotal book for me when I read it, and a member of mine here, he was a local Chick-fil-A owner. He owned the Chick-fil-A here in town, and he recommended the book to me. He was a big mindset guy and an excellent businessman and a hard worker. And I'm like, what's this book? And I was already reading some self-development books and stuff at the time, and I cracked it open, and it defined and gave you some system on how to think and how to expand your mindset. And that's even one that I'd recommend to young dads when they have kids, because I read it right around the time I had my first son, and it changed the way I spoke to him. Like, maybe initially I was so fresh out of the book, it could have been a little negative. I was like, is that, instead of going like, good job, buddy, I was like, that's very creative. Is that the best work you could do? Right? I mean, you can go off the deep end with it, but it just breeds not building complacency, not labeling yourself, always allowing yourself to think broader.
Is that Mindset by, I think, Carol Dweck? Does that sound familiar?
That's the last name. Are you looking at the
Okay, cool.
cover of it?
Just for anybody that might be looking for the book, because I figured Mindset might be the name of like several books, but that's the main one that comes up.
That's the one, guys. We're going with it. Don't hate me if it's a terrible read. That's not the one I recommended, but no.
If you picked the wrong one, it's on you. Last one for you. Where do you see fitness going? The fitness that we serve, right? The broader thing people are into and are going
Yeah,
to gyms for.
yeah. Man, that is a good question. It's been I've obviously been in the space now for a while. I say a while. I mean a short time comparatively speaking to some others, right? But I've seen a bunch of evolution in the coach led fitness space in my 15-ish years. I think it's really interesting right now with the amount of automation and AI stuff that's out there and programmable this and that. And right, they have all the things at the house now, the mirror, right? That virtual trainers. I think in-person experiences are on the rise. And that's something that people will forever want and need. And it's even becoming increasingly more valuable right now to have in-person experiences. And if you guys are listening that you interview members or do sales calls on a regular basis, I mean, we all resonate with well, I work from home and cool. What else does life and work look like? Well, I take my dog to the vet every 6 months. Like they don't get out. They don't have a tribe. And if they do, it's not always the healthiest habit, right? They got some drinking buddies anyway. So in-person experiences, anything around that. And I think the sky's the limit with where it could go because people can get pretty wild with their thoughts and ideas and innovations, right? And can make the cool next gadget. In terms of shelf life though, and like what would hit the scene that's actually going to stay for a while. I believe it's gonna center around movement that is functional in nature, and I'm gonna ride the coattails of the CrossFit definition, which is movements that are categorically unique in their ability to express power, and we can define power. And I'm geeking out a little bit on the methodology with it, but meaning full global, like full body stuff, right? Not necessarily I need to pick something up from the ground and put it over my head because that's functional. Well, it's also functional to hold a baby like this, right? So why aren't we cranking bicep curls a lot? So functional in nature, but also I see the want, need, and experience for intensity going down, and there's value in intensity. I don't know if that's like a stress bucket overload thing that our population has with they're overstimulated all day long anyway. And then what does some high intensity movement do? It stimulates the crap out of you.
It fires
So
cortisol way up.
absolutely, right? And that's a lot of our product and methodology. Like we brand under CrossFit. We are a CrossFit gym. CrossFit to me means fitness with friends. That's what that's what I tell folks. But I don't have any allegiance to them in that sense. And the minute I find something that serves my population better and helps me grow my business better, employ my people better, pay them more money, that's what we're gonna do. Period. Right? And we've even shifted our product to a little bit less intense offerings from here and there, right? And not leaving people laid down, drug out on the floor, and doing some hypertrophy type work in the program more often, right? And a lot of bit more joint health oriented. And we do real extensive warm ups. And where's it going though? Something around that. And somebody could come out just like CrossFit did, where they don't own the exercises, it's not new, but they come up with a new fusion of how to deliver these exercises that is maybe it is random. I don't know. I think if there's enough variance in it, it doesn't have to be random. And that's a CrossFit mantra too, right? Prepare for the unknown and random and or constantly varied. Sorry, it's not random, guys. Don't send me the hate emails. I know the difference. A little bit more linear in its progression because it's easier for the mom and dad who want to come in and drop 10 pounds, have more energy to play with their kids longer, look a little bit better naked. Like it's easier for them to see the progression when it's a clear staircase up, and then you fuse in some cool sexy stuff that will help people get excited about their day too with fitness. So whatever that program looks like, Will, that's what's going to be next.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like CrossFit but
It
done more
sounds like, yeah,
intentionally.
it sounds like an evolution for sure. And you probably, I think you're pretty spot on, because that's what it's been for me, you know. And I would say if you think about the generation that kind of aligned with the birth of CrossFit, kind of, you know, guys like us, millennials, you know, like when CrossFit, we were in our 20s, we were in the get after phase of life, and we didn't have enough to get after yet. We didn't have kids yet. We didn't have a whole lot of bills yet. We didn't have those stress cortisol responses. So we were looking for things that fired that up, right?
Absolutely.
And then, like, you know, as the population, that consensus age population aged up, they're like, man, I don't want to go to the gym and try to figure out how to beat Sally on the rower today. I want to get a workout in and feel productive and good afterwards and not beat up.
Yep. And weaving in some of the basics, the foundations, especially the bodybuilding principles. Now, if you're listening to this and you're, you know, a smash mouth functional fitness person or a CrossFitter, and you're like bodybuilding, like you, and you've been doing it a while, you see value in bodybuilding, but we can use the word hypertrophy, stuff that's going to deliver more of an aesthetic difference quickly, right? Less on the performance front. Finding that balance where it's not a performance driven program, but it's more of an aesthetics driven program. Because that's secretly too, not secretly, a lot of times, that's why people start the gym. You guys know that, right? They want to lose weight and they want to look better naked, and they might tell you, sometimes they got blood pressure issues too. I get that, right? Sometimes they want to get out of the house, all right? But they never come in wanting to be able to climb the rope 10 times in a row. Like, occasionally you get the person who does a Spartan race and they're like, I need to learn that grab rope. You get it. Anyway, that's the once off. So something that weaves that element in, which will inherently leave you a little bit less depleted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's definitely, I think there's Deion Sanders, look good, play good, win, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I always feel like I perform better when I feel like I'm looking better. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's go use this thing, man. Let's get after it today.
Absolutely. Do you see they're looking at him for a coaching position for the Cowboys right now?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my Redskins are fired back up. I don't know when this thing's going to air, but we got a big playoff game this weekend against the Eagles. The first time Redskins have even been to the playoffs in like 12 years.
Yeah, we'll try not to date the podcast, but you guys beat my Lions, and I'm still a little sour about that. But
That's right. You're a Michigan guy. That's right.
They played well, and they deserved it. So I'm excited. Any team that beats my team, I'm rooting for now. So, you know, go Redskins.
Right.
Well, Zach, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us, man. I'm sure we could go on for hours, and I know we're going to have you back in time here. So I'm excited to see your wins since. That's some built-in accountability off the back of the show here. Is when we get you on next, you gotta build on all these wins you shared us here today. Your success with Kakon has been amazing, man, and it's been great to have you as a client and a friend in the program. For our listeners that want to maybe spy on you or see what you're doing at Kakon, what's the best way for them to follow you on social media?
You can look up our handle is Kakon CF, as in CrossFit, Facebook, Instagram. We have a TikTok, but I don't know if that's still floating around or not. And yeah, give us a follow on there and see what we're doing, guys. Appreciate you, Will. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. And if you as a listener are ready to take your gym to the next level like Zach has, visit biglittlegyms.com to book a free strategy call today. Let's get you started on your own growth journey and get you on the show here in the future. Join us next time for another inspiring guest who's making waves in the fitness industry. You won't want to miss it.